now, which is Prime Minister. So welcome, Prime Minister.
Blaze, good morning. Good morning. Myles, good morning. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning, all Slam listeners.
Good morning.
Last time it was also... Good morning, Myles. Good morning. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning, all Slam listeners.
Good morning.
Last time it was also Minister in the office of the
Prime Minister,
right?
yes,
so what
yes,
you've done is
yes.
you've done a shift around, and it's good. It's good to be here this morning. It's good to be here as a young Prime Minister with the responsibility to lead Trinidad and Tobago. And as the whole country knows, Blaze, and as you and all your listeners know, immediately seeking a mandate from the people of Trinidad and Tobago, because I have a lot of plans, a lot that I want to implement, a lot that I want to build for Trinidad and Tobago. And as I've called it, join me to write a bold new chapter. But to do that, I just need a mandate from the population to go forward and to drive it, to make sure that we have a stable Trinidad and Tobago. We're in some very turbulent times, Very turbulent times. I mean, a lot of it is not generated domestically. And I think Trinidad and Tobago, we really have to take note. You're seeing what the effects of decisions outside of Trinidad and Tobago are having, not only on us, not only on the CARICOM region, but on the whole world. You know, and in reflecting, I think it's important that the population, as we go to the polls in less than a week's time, make an important decision. You have to decide who do you think is capable of, at any hour of the day, 24/7, getting a phone call from anywhere in the world that can literally affect our future, and being able to have that sober conversation, and a conversation that will direct Trinidad and Tobago's policy, ensure protection, and secure the future of Trinidad and Tobago. It is not an easy time. It's not an easy time for any world leader. If you've looked on at what is going on globally, and I think it's important that we in Trinidad and Tobago understand is not only what's going on in front of us, look on what's been going on globally with the imposition of tariffs.
Geopolitics is really...
That is now the most prevalent thing dictating how the world is unfolding. I have been looking at it in the last 3 weeks. I have been looking at world leaders, persons in positions of responsibility like myself for their countries, come before the microphone, just hearing that they've had potential tariffs imposed on them. And they're saying, hey, okay, we will react to this, we need to study it and these types of things, but how is it going to affect trade? And you need to have leadership that is prepared for that. You need to look at it and say, okay, over the last, let's say 15 years, who is the person that has managed that the best? Who has had quiet diplomacy and then announced results? Who has dealt with disappointment, but then found ways, as opposed to screaming, shouting, you know, the Trinidad kind of bacchanal, the move along and this type of thing.
Yeah.
Who can remain focused in the most difficult of times? If there's a domestic difficulty taking place, who's dealing with the domestic difficulty? Who is it that can come forward, address the nation in a calm way, but also make decisions? And I'm going to say up front, nobody ever gets it 100% correct. I will not get it 100% correct. I've not gotten it 100% correct in the past. However, I think by and large, people can look and say, you know, okay, all of those decisions that were made were for the betterment of Trinidad and Tobago. And respectfully, that's the decision we all have to make. You and I, we used to call ourselves the young people, but we are no longer the young youth generation, but we still interact with them. So we know them. So we are the bridge. We are the ones who now could take on board what we've learned from the elders, as we call them, but what we see the young people facing, what they're dealing with, and make the decisions. Because right now, Trinidad and Tobago needs that stable relationship. Right now, Trinidad and Tobago needs a dynamic leadership, and a leadership that is not under duress to anyone, a leadership that could take the bold decisions without fear of, well, a coalition will break down, or somebody trying to overthrow, or somebody have a file on me, and these kind of things. So that's what's going on, Blaze, and it's all come together in the melting pot of Trinidad and Tobago. We go to the polls next week, Monday.
Yeah, we go to the polls next week, Monday, and it will be decided. And I'm happy you spoke about what's happening with the tariffs and so on, because long ago, and not too long ago, but these things would happen externally, and by us it would be, oh, that does not. But this is the first time, I think, for many people that they have experienced it, they have felt it, and they have felt, well, hey, this is going to affect me drastically. And things need to happen. Of course, as I said, diplomacy behind closed doors, quiet diplomacy,
Correct.
because that is the
That's how you
tightrope.
affect
It's like
decisions.
walking the tightrope.
Yep. Let me give you a good example. If you go back and look in the last 3 to 4 weeks, you'd have seen the United States suggest that they're going to impose sanctions on shipping, and any shipping fleet in the world that has a Chinese vessel in it or an order for a Chinese vessel, they're going to impose $1 million US per port fee up to $1.5 million. That would immediately significantly increase the fees of everything you and I purchase.
Yes, everything,
imported thing.
everything.
But let me tell you what we did. Very quietly, we had a CARICOM heads meeting, and I'm proud to say Trinidad and Tobago, through me as the Prime Minister, intervened. We came up with a strategy. We discussed it. We had a plan in place already. We refined it. They went off to Congress, some advocates on our behalf. The next week, Prime Minister Motley and myself went up to Jamaica, met with Secretary Rubio. That was one of the things I raised. I said, Secretary Rubio, you have to understand, when you all impose these things as US policy, it is going to affect this small CARICOM region and our islands. He listened, made the argument. Prime Minister Motley, as the chairman of CARICOM, went after. She made the arguments. And I'm happy to report, it was in yesterday's papers, I believe.
It was.
Saying that our voices have been heard and that the United States has now taken a decision that those tariffs on shipping will not be imposed on Trinidad and Tobago. Go and look at it. I addressed the Shipping Association of Trinidad and Tobago on that to say, hey, we are doing the work. And that is how you conduct business on behalf of Trinidad and Tobago. And Trinidad and Tobago need to understand this, that this is the type of work that goes on. Someone could wake up, jump on a plane, go up, deal with difficult conversations with world leaders, jump back on the plane, come back to Trinidad and Tobago, read cabinet notes, wake up the next morning, right? Read cabinet notes until 3 o'clock in the morning, wake up a few hours later, lead cabinet, then put on your walking shoes, go out there, walk, meet the people, then go on a platform. This is the type of leadership, in my respectful opinion, that is required to lead Trinidad and Tobago in particular at this time. And that's what I'm offering.
And this is something, I mean, that you have been working on. Is not just, you didn't just pop up.
Correct.
You have been around for a while. So you know of the challenges, and you would obviously know, you have been with the PM and so on, with many, many meetings accompanying him. So you would know the intricacies of these things. So the experience is there.
Correct.
The experience is there. Now, I'm moving to a little bit more domestic in terms of what's happening. We've seen the manifesto. We got it online and that sort of thing. And people are, we got some questions from some of our callers. You know how our contributors are. And one of the questions was pertaining to healthcare in Trinidad and Tobago. We have seen a lot of people confirm their experiences with healthcare, good, bad, or indifferent. There's good experiences with healthcare. There are good experiences. But some people, they are very bad experiences. And one of the particular bad experiences, the wait time for people to get through what it could be treatment, x-rays. What would be done to alleviate something like this?
Blaze, every medical system in the world has a lag time. We have been working on it assiduously. I have to say, coincidentally, it was exactly a year after we opened. And I will invite any Trinbagonian to go into that hospital without disrupting operations. I was so proud because it is state of the art. It is as good as and better than hospitals around the world. There are going to be lag times because the truth is you're always going to have a demand for more than there's a supply. If you have an emergency room that can take 10 cases, right? So you have 10 emergency beds that could do emergency surgery with the staff. And that night, God forbid, there's a mass accident. And out of the mass accident, have 25 people turn up there.
Yeah.
You have to improvise. But what about the people? That's 25 who just converge on the system in an emergency manner. What about the 10 people who are waiting there in the emergency room with legitimate cases? So these are the things that are happening. But what we have done is we've taken a decision, and it's a big part of our manifesto going forward. Let us digitize. Let us find a way to use current technology and programming that allows us to be more efficient. So right now, and it's being implemented across the healthcare system, is, for example, a system that allows you to see across all public healthcare systems and hospitals what beds are available. So if you know that right now Port of Spain General is under a surge, but Mount Hope has beds, so you could immediately redirect.
You can redirect.
Yeah, so these are the things that
So it's online, and
it is online in the healthcare system. I've seen it. It is currently being tested. It's currently operational in some. When we toured Central Block, I saw it as well being used in Sandy Grande. These are some of the systems. And another good thing about it is it also now permits that your record. So if you did an X-ray at Mount Hope, but you end up in Grande Hospital, they could pull up the X-ray, they could pull up the MRI because it's there on the system. So the doctor dealing with you, wherever you are in the healthcare system, immediately has access. That creates efficiency. It then filters down, for example, now, okay, you're trying to remember what is the drug that Blaze takes again for whatever his ailment is. And you can't remember that. They pull it up on the system. They say, okay, it is X, Y, and Z. The pharmacist will dispense that. So these are some of the efficiencies. Another thing I was particularly pleased about at the Grande Hospital was the amount of young people, Blaze. The whole thing, I would say 80% was populated by young
in terms of the
adults,
staffing.
in terms of the staffing.
Yeah.
So it shows that the opportunities are there. And I was proud. And one of the things immediately as it was brought to my attention last week about the nurses' situation. And that, for example, they had not had any negotiation of wages since 20. I said, but as everybody else is having it. So gave the Minister of Finance, he go ahead, said, listen, tell the CPO to tell the RHAs, because it's not in direct government, it's RHAs, to immediately engage in nurses, because we understand as a people the important service. So these are the things that are immediately being implemented. Let me tell you, there are not many countries in the world you can have free healthcare.
Well, yes,
free healthcare, MRI, CAT scan, X-ray, dispensing the drugs for senior citizens, CDAP, and these types of things. If you and I go up, and you always going on Miami and and you get sick up there, God forbid, you had to pay.
Yeah.
They may even treating you until you pull out your card or you give them an authorization, you could pay. In Trinidad, and you see all of these things are intertwined. So I am very concerned about our future, because if the wrong decisions are taken, for example, decisions we can't afford that bankrupt the country, first thing to go when IMF reach is all the subsidies, So they say, hey, no more free healthcare, no more free education. All our subsidy you put in on fuel at the pumps, that had to go. Electricity rates, water rates, you had to pay the full rates. Those are the first things to go. And in conjunction with that, public servants, the same public servants that they're trying to fool right now, saying you go get 10% or you go get up to 14%, that will bankrupt the country. First thing you're doing, look at it. It happened in Barbados right next door. It happened to Trinidad and Tobago in 1986 when a coalition government led us down the road of IMF and devaluation. Public servants' jobs gone, cut in salary gone, all these types of things. So I am fighting along with the PNM to protect those things. And I understand that people are, worried. I understand people are concerned and saying, yeah, but Young, you've been there for 9 years. You've been there for 9.5 years.
Yeah.
Hey, yes, I have been. And we've been stabilizing it. When we came in, it was not an easy time. I saw somebody produce a graph of how prices crashed in 2015, 16, and 17 with oil and gas. And as soon as it started going back up, boom, COVID hit us. That's another lost 2.5 years. Stabilizing the economy, making the right decisions, making sure everybody's paid their salaries, keeping people whole during COVID was not an easy period. I was reflecting on it, Blaze. During COVID, when we had a reduction in revenue, we had to shut down businesses. The world had ground to a halt for a few weeks. Oil prices had gone below zero. Below zero. They were minus. They were paying people come and take the oil from me. Right? We had to borrow $13 to $15 billion that year. Borrow to keep our economy afloat, to make sure we had everything that the people of Trinidad and Tobago needed. 13 to 15. When I tallied up, and I read anything papers today, economists are warning us today about what the opposition is offering as a bag of goodies. That is $20 billion in 1 year. And you were complaining about COVID at 13 billion. Where are we finding that money? It will lead to bankruptcy. So I'm worried. And I'm asking Trinidad and Tobago, look at these things very, very, it's all intertwined. So the same healthcare system that you talk about, that is one of the first things that when we end up by the IMF and the dollar is devalued, look at all the pharmaceuticals. We don't make pharmaceuticals in Trinidad. So all of the drugs or people take in Trinidad and Tobago is paid for with Forex. When that is devalued, you know what that means now for the cost of the drugs?
It's going to skyrocket.
And then CDAP will go, because that is what the IMF will do. So we have to think very carefully. You have to avoid it. You have a young, vibrant team, a team with experience who don't look at it as, oh, you're there for, yeah, exactly as you said, using your words. I and my colleagues, we've been there for 9.5 years. We've been learning the ropes. We understand how it works. We've been responsible for the last 9.5 years, myself included. I am now ready, offering myself along with the PNM and a young team to write the next chapter. And I mean that, to build Trinidad and Tobago, to fight for Trinidad and Tobago, to maintain that lifestyle for Trinidad and Tobago in the type of global turmoil and volatility we see in.
Now, Prime Minister Young, you touched on energy a little bit, and of course that's your main portfolio in terms of, well, before Prime Minister. So the Dragon Gas deal, the last time you were with us on the Grand Slam Morning Show, you spoke about the Dragon Gas deal. You taught us about it. You exposed people. Is the Dragon Gas deal dead? Because that is what we've been hearing. That is what people are saying. Is the deal dead? Is that it?
No. They've said that. They said that in 2018, 2019. I remember the headlines. Dragon Gas deal dead in 2019. Then they said it again. There's a lot of adversity in the global world, especially in the energy sector. But we've shown time and time again, we've shown the innovation. So I am not going to sit here and assure Trinidad and Tobago things outside of my control. But the call that I took on Good Friday, after agreeing to a call on Good Friday with Secretary of State Rubio, was a very, very significant one. And I am not commented outside of the language that Secretary Rubio and the State Department put forward to the world. You have to look at that very, very carefully. They recognize, which is very unusual. They say, we recognize Young's leadership role in the energy security. They recognize the importance of what it is. Obviously, I was putting forward and advocating for Trinidad and Tobago to be able to pursue Dragon Gas. So the answer is it dead? The answer is no. It is not dead. The answer is it requires diplomacy. I will protect Trinidad and Tobago's sovereignty. And it requires that little bit of intelligence to be able to find ways that I have shown over the last 9.5 years. As I say, when you put a hurdle up here, we find a way, but within the confines of the law. So we have work to do. You have to decide who could bring that home. But let me remind the population, as you raise Dragon, Blaze, there are two sides of Dragon.
Okay.
There's United States, but then there's our neighbor Venezuela. And when you see the behavior of Kamala Persad-Bissessar and her team and how they talk about Venezuela, how they talk about President Maduro, Trinidad and Tobago has to understand that make the wrong decision and Venezuela side after that about OFAC and about anything. Because you can't be insulting on a daily basis someone. I can't be saying, Blaze so and so, and Blaze is a this, and Blaze is a that, and Blaze is the worst thing on earth, and Blaze is a drug trafficker, and then what? Afterwards, I come my Blaze, I say, hey Blaze, lend me a corner.
Yeah. And I know about it.
Of course you know about it.
Yeah.
I'm saying it openly. You tell me, if I doing that to you, boy, Blaze is a all this and a all that and a this and a Blaze is a narco drug dealer and a this and a that. And now when I in a position, my car break down, I go come by you and say, hey, Blaze, I need to go down the road, boy, lend me your car.
Just for the record, I'm not any of those things.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
Just use an example.
That is an example. All right. Okay, switch it around. Blaze says short this, short that. Prime Minister this, Prime Minister that. When you turn up by me, I mean, I'm a forgiving fella.
But it's only so much.
Blaze, you wasn't just telling Myles.
On Wednesday 23rd from April 2025, Wednesday 23rd, April 2025, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. The Commission apologizes for any inconvenience caused by this interruption, but it is necessary to upgrade and maintain the overhead line system in these areas. 394-4911, taking your voice notes.
Send us the voice notes.
I don't know how to play this now. I don't know.
World is facing
traffic.
it. I have seen it just in the past few years of travel. Washington, London, wherever you go, you're facing traffic issues. In Barbados, you're facing traffic issues. We just have a lot more congestion. We just have a lot more vehicles on the road, become more accessible, which is a good thing on one hand. But these are the consequences. So we have to look at it. And you're seeing that certain things are being done to alleviate it. The extension of a lane on the north-south highway. You're looking at where can we put in place interchanges. But we also have to consider changing our culture. I mean, it's not an easy one in Trinidad.
Oh, yes.
Everybody wants to drive their own car to work, right?
Yes.
As opposed to, let's carpool
Carpooling
or this. And another thing we're looking at that you'll see here is a more efficient public transport system. So one of the things I would like for the next PNM government to achieve is, you see, especially buses for areas that they have to be for the area. So on the North Coast, smaller buses that could navigate
could
the
maneuver,
roads and
yes,
maneuver,
yes.
right? So then the people on the North Coast could get to the hub, say, for example, on the North Coast, on the eastern side, they could get to the hub of Sandy Grande and then take the buses into port. Once you have a more efficient public transport, and what I could say is that the government has taken that decision. We have on order a few hundred buses. We've also looked to modernize our bus system to bring in electric vehicles, to do our part on climate change, to move and use our CNG that we have in place already. So these are the things that are taking place. Is there a magic pill? I wish there was, you know. We haven't reached the stage of, what was it, the Jetsons, when everybody
They
pop
take
up
the
in
pill
the
and
end.
that's
No,
it.
well, they pop up
Oh,
in
yeah.
the end, they fly in with these
Hover,
guys.
the hovers,
But then
the
even
hovercraft.
there, you see the traffic and this type of thing in the air, which is, so the answer is we are aware of it. There's no burying of the head in the sand. And we have to find creative and innovative ways of doing it. But one thing I could assure, you ain't hearing about, well, they had a little bubble here and a little bubble there, and he purchased of this and he purchased of that. So we can't forget that either. You're laughing.
No,
I didn't say Bobby.
yes,
I
you
said
said bubble.
bubbles.
So it's a bold new chapter. If you are elected,
When
you are elected, all right, in your language, what will be the first thing you do as Prime Minister?
the first thing I have to do is appoint a cabinet.
Well, after it's appointed, what will be the first act out of your manifesto?
The first act coming out in my manifesto,
Yes.
Blaze, is to sit with the respective ministers who are given the portfolios that we cover here. A big one is, you see, digitization. Fortunately, in this term of governance, you saw two new ministries, the Ministry of Digital Transformation and the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. The delivery of those two ministries becomes even more critical in the next stage. So it is finding the allocations and the resources, especially for digitization, making sure we have the right people in place, not any minister or ministerial level, but who can now implement it, because we have to move towards implementation. I have proposed a Ministry of Implementation and Efficiency. That too is not a magic wand. What I've said is that is what I did out of office of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister, Rowley, had said, look, sure, get this done, get that done, certain projects. You find ways within the law. You go and you speak to the, excuse me, you speak to the ministers, you speak to the agency, say, hey, there's this application here. Let's take a look at it. What needs to be done? Is there outstanding information? So it will be the implementation of those systems. Also, I want to focus on the education reform, because I am particularly concerned about our young children. And I see the opportunity, as the manifesto sets out, that if we intervene at young ages, teach financial prudence, teach saving, teach the benefits of that, teach entrepreneurship to our young children, you immediately inculcate into thinking a progressive way forward. I want to get the tech VOC back operational in our school systems throughout Trinidad and Tobago. You know, so you could go, you could do your woodworking, you could learn electrical, so you could be those types of
core trades.
Yeah, because that doesn't make you any less of a success. We recognize that academics is not the be all and the end all. We all need,
and not everybody has the capacity.
No, correct.
Yeah,
and
let's face facts.
And that is a different talent, and there's nothing wrong with that. So it is a change all of these things culturally, the way of thinking. Our young people must have a sense of hope, but also the option to pursue. The Ministry of Youth Development and National Service is doing an excellent job. By the next term, we will have the youth camps back open. So you now provide a space for those who are having challenges. I'm going to expand the MILAT, the CCC, but all responsibly, because you can't go and produce where money isn't available. So it is, you look at where will we be able to put the resources that we have to best work. And for me, a big part of it is focusing on our youth, focusing on that generation. So these are going to be the priority areas. In addition to what we've said with respect to the housing, I've already had the Ministry of Housing identifying the areas of land for that 3,000 plots of land. And I'm happy to say it will not take us very long to be able to launch that first set. and to get these things done. So I also want to stimulate the economy, make sure that the more vulnerable amongst us are looked after by making the system more efficient. What I've been talking about with grants, I know it because people in my constituency tell me about it. That, for example, they have a disability grant because one of the children in the household has serious disabilities. And of course, that's not enough to cover all expenses, but it helps. And then one of the other children who's still in the household because they don't have their own place gets a temporary job, and boom, social development workers take them off of the grant.
Because of
So you're basically discouraging a brother or a sister from going out and getting work because they now see how that's affecting their sibling who has a disability. No, that's not what it's about. We find a better measurement and formula to allow it to continue because we want you to build your life. We want you to go out and be able to afford to help the family. What we have to do is find those abuses of the system where it's not necessary, where you really, really don't need it. So those are the areas we're going to focus on. And the good news is, it's not a new government that learning for the first time. There will be new faces because that's part of the new chapter. And that's part of what is needed to build and take us forward. But you have sufficient people with experience, myself, others who have gained the experience, but with a different way of thinking now to write that next chapter.
And the next chapter, I mean, in the next chapter, we hope in terms of we see what has plagued us for many years, the issue of crime. The issue of crime has plagued us. It's a big topic on the platforms. There seems to be no end. We're hearing about gruesome crime, even more and more gruesome as we listen and we learn. We saw the guy who stopped to urinate and what happened to his wife, and these things are going on. Look what took place in the airport. How are you going to hold crime, strangle it, and get rid of it?
Liz, anybody who says that's simple and they can do what you just described, don't listen to them. It don't matter if they're sitting on a step, it don't matter if they're promising to build walls and CCTV. It is not an easy issue, but look at those examples that you've given. So the gentleman who tragically lost his wife when he stopped to relieve himself at the side of the road. Another one that has been bothering me tremendously is a young autistic girl down in the Barapur area.
15-year-old girl.
Yeah, 15-year-old girl. And then a suspect takes his own life in well, I wouldn't comment on the manner. Those show that there are a lot of psychological things that need to be addressed. And that's why we've declared it a public healthcare system. The truth is, it is something that requires a lot of focus, a lot of emphasis. You have two sides. You have the hard fight, which we've laid out the plans here for the hard fight.
Which is fighting fire with fire.
Yeah, correct.
That's the hard fight.
And the elite squad that I know could work. The use of technology, the reform of legislation, those are the hard fight techniques and measures. But then it's exactly what we were talking about 5 minutes ago. You see the Ministry of Youth Development National Service. You see things like what we've proposed in the HDC communities, of allowing the HDC communities through local content procurement legislation to do the work in their own community.
In their community.
Don't underestimate that measure. What that measure does, it stimulates that little domestic economy in the HDC community. I have it in Shafford, in Harp, Hawaii Land, St. Francois Valley Road, right here, a striking distance. We could walk it. Uplifts. Because people then begin to feel once again, a sense of belonging, a sense of pride. You see, these are some of the things that are lost in the hard conversations and you have to do this. But when less siloing of information. It is real. It is something that any government will have to grapple with. The way to do it is not to get in bed with the criminal elements. That I am certain about. And that is something that I will not be condoning in any way whatsoever, because all that does is make it worse. We learn that from life sport. I often wonder if life sport didn't take place,
What would have
what
been?
would have been our meal today compared to you're going through $400 million and hundreds of millions thinking you're suppressing crime? No, we're doing it. We're doing it with program. Aren't you a mentor in the Empower?
Yeah.
You see that program, Blaze?
Yeah.
The Empower thing is something I advocated along with Minister Shamfa Kujo, because I see it when you go and speak to the young men at that age where the decision and somebody like Blaze come down and Blaze talk to them right there in the community. You say, okay, that making sense, but I never knew that was Blaze's story, you know?
Yeah.
But look how Blaze listened to me. He knew what my frustrations were. Why me ain't going to do that today, you know? I go in and see if I could find a program to better myself. Those are the interventions. The things like Empower, the things where Minister Kujo is doing with our young girls as well. This is not easy, and the problems between a male and a female are often very, very different.
Yeah.
Right? So it is these reflective and well thought out interventions where I don't just see people as a problem and well, throw money here, throw money there, and this. No. How could I really, and this government intervene into your life with the limited resources that we have in a responsible manner to better life? That is what it is for me. I honestly believe that is what it is for me. And you see, the loss of religion and allowing religion into young minds, whatever your religion is, had an effect on society. So these are some of the things. The denominational boards of religion. You often see a better performance in those areas than the government schools. And we have to narrow that gap. We have to make sure there's equity and parity. And say whatever you want about Stuart Young, because it's easy to say anything. That is always how I've lived my life. Against injustice. When I was a lawyer, it was fight for the worker. It was, a woman comes in a medical negligence case where her child, due to medical negligence, now suffers from cerebral palsy. Do the matter? Because it is a real sense of where there's injustice, we have a responsibility. And I've also done it before with the youth. People may not know. So, for example, starting up Synergy TV. I remember when that concept was brought. You know what it was? At that time in Trinidad and Tobago's history, there was no platform for artists. Artists were not producing music videos because you had nowhere to show it.
Nowhere to show.
It was either to try and convince TV6. I don't know if CNC3 existed at the time. They did, I think, or TTT. As soon as we say, you know what? If we provide young artists with a platform similar to like our MTV in Trinidad, Synergy TV, and that is what we did. And immediately, the talent show, the runway, Soca Star, these types, it was always with this provider platform. And that is why, for example, here as well, the Art and Culture Innovative
That was the
Council,
next place I was actually going to ask about.
I know it will
that's
work.
Another crime fighting tool.
Because I know it will, because we did it. We did it with Synergy. I saw the effect that thing had. I remember when we had the model show, and you go to Zen, and the whole place packed with young people and positivity. When we did the Soca Star, and we pack out Jean Pierre for the finals, we pack out the amphitheater in St. James. This is all of the experience I had, and I believe it was to provide me with the thought process and knowing how it could be done now for this stage in our history, because our young people are so talented in that area, and that is Trinidad and Tobago. Let us find a way. When I asked for the statistics, this year it is estimated that Carnival generated about $680 million in revenue. That's a Carnival period that is now being offered throughout the year in different jurisdictions. isn't that a great area for our young people to come forward in the art of entertainment, in the art of, whatever the
Service
culture is,
providing
service
and all of that.
providing and
Yeah.
these types of things.
Yes.
To find a space. And it's not a government going to throw money behind it, Let us sit down, let us work it out. Is it that now when we go off the tourism shows, whereas before it's just a booth and some pamphlets showing, this is whatever Trinidad, this is Pigeon Point, this is Lupino
Maracas
Bonnet,
and-
Maracas.
yeah.
Hey, hold on. There's a whole section there now where the young entrepreneurs say, this is what we could do. This is the products that we're offering and this type of thing. And that's how it starts. And that's how it builds. And then next thing before you know it, the tree has bloomed. So
Yeah.
these are the thoughts, these are the ideas, innovative, these are the visions. This ain't AI generated, this ain't chat GPT generated. This is real. This is well thought out. And this is giving Trinidad and Tobago an opportunity,
where people are, they're very concerned about, because crime happens. Too long to get a judgment. I know that's not directly on you, but obviously you lead the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and there must be some sort of communication. And because that is also leading to people, it's revolving.
Correct.
So, because a lot of the people that do crime, they
sitting
on
in
bail for
remand,
something.
either on bail or sitting
Or
in
they're on
remand
remand.
for years.
You understand?
Waiting.
And let's face facts. I mean, there are people too. They're frustrated.
Absolutely.
So what is going to be done, or is there anything that is going to be done to try to alleviate that problem or quicken the process?
You hit on a number of the pertinent points there. Blaze, the first is not within the direct control of the government.
not,
There
yes.
is a reason for separation of the
Yes.
powers, and the administration of justice falls under the judiciary. On the criminal side is the judiciary as well as the DPP, both of whom are separated by constitution, and
Yes.
the government can't interfere. But you said, can't you communicate? The answer is yes. You've also seen in the last 9.5, 10 years, the introduction of legislation to facilitate that, judge-only trials. I remember going down in remand and people tell me, boss, I here for 10 years waiting on a trial and this type of thing. I'm waiting on a judge only because I will go with judge only. I will do that. I just want to be
You want to know his fate.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or not guilty. So I know my fate. So those types of things, the legislation to get rid of preliminary inquiries, the increase of the size of the judiciary, more resources, we haven't begun to see, truthfully, the fruit that we're hoping to from those things. So it would be to have a working relationship with the judiciary that does not offend any constitutional barriers, to listen to them, what is needed on their side, to work with the criminal justice system, because it has to become more efficient than it is. You can't be allowing our young men to just be sitting in prison waiting on a date for 5, 10, there's some 15, 16 years. That is not justice. That's not what it's supposed to be about. And again, is there any quick fix? And is there any solution, quick fix? No, the answer is no. But what could technology do to help there? Okay, so you're using more virtual court hearings now. Shouldn't that speed up the process because you don't have to move prisoners around? What are the areas that can be done? But it is an area that there is going to be focus on. And the truth be told, I mean, I've already indicated that to the Honorable Chief Justice, that come the 29th of April, that's on a priority list, that a meeting to take place between the judiciary and the government, a properly composed team from the government, to sit down, where can we improve the systems, what needs to be done, and how can it be done properly and legally.
And how can you help?
Correct.
Because as you say, there are different problems that
Correct.
the populace may not be aware of that takes
Correct.
place in the judiciary.
Correct.
And that is something, and it's, it's something that it frustrates a lot.
It must.
And it also would trickle down to the officers because they hold.
Correct.
Not hold, but they
It does.
get the
It affects
criminal
morale.
in, and then after you see the man back out threatening you.
Blaze, legislation is one thing. You're touching a bit of a nerve there, right? So you see repeat offenders with illegal firearms,
Yeah.
the shooters in society. So the parliament passed legislation If you are held and convicted for the
Now,
third time with an
hold
illegal
there now.
firearm, your sentence could be life imprisonment.
The outside, on the
The
outside here.
fine is a huge
Yeah,
amount of
on the
money.
inside,
But
yes,
you're not
and
seeing that being applied by those who have to apply it. So it is also a sensitization to that. We can't be detached from the reality. I mean, the legislators put that in place because it is supposed to be a deterrent.
Supposed to be used.
And it's supposed to be used. Unfortunately, you hear cases about repeat offenders, reprimand and discharge. I mean, that is the complete opposite of what you're trying to achieve. So there needs to be as close a working relationship as possible within the confines of the law. The judiciary, like every sector of our services and of government, using government in a all-embracing term, would say they need more resources, etc. But again, there's only so much pie that has to be shared. And let's work together. Let's find ways. What is it, as you say, that we could do to assist for the better dispensation and the more efficient dispensation of justice? I mean, it is just holding up everything. You have corruption cases that can't see the light of day. You have corruption cases, some of them taking 20 plus years, still hasn't reached the high court. You have people who in the political arena waving, talking, all kind of things with charges. And I just find that a unacceptable state of affairs.
Now, before we wrap up, because it's already 2 minutes after 9 o'clock, time flies when you're having fun, right?
Indeed.
I just wanted to find out. I saw what you did with the available of the US for the SMEs through the Exim Bank.
Correct.
Now, which is a great initiative because people have been crying and screaming for the availability of the US dollar. In terms of regular citizens, I mean, if I have to go, you just mentioned I like to go, man. I have to make 15 trips to the bank, and you may have the US there, but obviously to get it, it's a problem. It's a real problem in Trinidad and Tobago.
So Blaze, that was exactly, there were two areas. When I asked to meet with the central bank and the Bankers Association and the head of the various financial institutions in Trinidad, along with the Minister of Finance and the Minister in the Ministry of Finance a few weeks ago, fairly shortly after I was sworn in as Prime Minister, it was to address those two areas.
I remember that was one of your first meetings.
Correct.
Yes.
It was the SMEs, but also the average citizen.
Average citizen.
And I told them, I listened to them. There is an area I've asked the central bank and the Minister of Finance to look at that I think can provide some alleviation in that area. Ultimately, we earn less foreign exchange than we did before. So if we had 20 million available before, and now you have 15 million, it means that there is going to be less to allocate. But I want to find a way that, exactly as you said, average citizen could go into the bank, say, look, you might be able to walk out. You're not going to be able to walk out, 50,000, 10,000 and this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But enough that you could go about and do your business, do what it is, make it that little bit easier. There was something that came out of that meeting. I've asked them to pursue it because, of course, you need to make sure that, again, is an equitable system. You need to make sure that what you're trying to achieve has the intended purpose when you implement it. So it continues to be an area of focus. I think I've shown that, we are capable of, when the problem is identified, diving in there, finding an innovative solution. That was within 4 weeks. I am not giving up that fight. Another thing that I'd raised with the banks is these bank charges and
charges.
Stuff, right? I raised that with them directly and frontally, and that's something I intend to take up. Because again, that affects us, the average citizen.
You see new ones and you wonder what's happening.
You're asking for me to move to virtual banking and to online banking. Surely that reduces and this type of thing is supposed to make it more efficient and more cost effective. That has to trickle down to the customer. So these are some of the things. But the Forex issue is one that we're focused on. And my priority and the government's priority next rounds is the average citizen.
Excellent. Well, I mean, we can discuss so much.
Whole night.
We know whole night, but you are on the campaign trail, and I know you have so much more to do today, Prime Minister. But we really appreciate you taking time out to greet us this morning and speak to us bluntly about certain
That's
issues.
all
We
right.
couldn't cover nation. We couldn't cover every single
Everything.
thing with the Prime Minister, but
Come
I
the
know
29th, I'll be back.
he'll be back. He'll be back.
I'll be back.
All right. He promised
Thank-
he'll be back. Yeah.
As I did last time. Blaze,
Yes.
thank you very much. I'll thank you all, everybody in studio,
welcome.
all who have listened. I want to thank you all. And I'll end by saying we all have a serious decision to make. It is two decisions you have to make. One is make sure and go out and vote next week, Monday. Is our people have fought for that right decades ago, but also that is your intervention to make sure that you think what needs to be done is done. And then the second thing is when you're choosing who you're going to vote for, make that responsible choice. I think it has all been laid out sufficiently in front of the population now. You know the decision you have to make. You know the volatile world that we're operating in. And it is not only confined to what is in front of our eyes and who is the most capable to go out there and fight for Trinidad and Tobago. So, Blaze, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Much appreciate. Myles, you all have a blessed day and I'll see you all soon.
Same to you. Same to you.
Yeah.
We hope to see you soon, huh?
Indeed. Thank you.
You're very
Take care. Take care.
Take care. Folks, Prime Minister Stuart Young, SC, sitting with us this morning. Thanks again to the Prime Minister and his team for have your microphone here.
Yes.
Don't forget.
Yeah. Okay, so this is Fearless Warrior. Early in the morning, I tell you when I had to go to work, and on the scene. And we want to just simply thank all for coming on the live this morning and watching the Prime Minister's speech. And we will be bringing some more interviews. And because I think Mr. Dominic Woon was this morning, so we are trying to get the feed for that. And also later on this afternoon, yeah, for those who watching, they see me on the construction site right here. I tell you, Fearless is also to do construction and also on a day-to-day basis. You see, that is so we help people and we do things. So out and about early this morning. So look out this afternoon. This afternoon we're supposed to be joining Jenny and Eric down in Malabar Mousiga, because they will be working with the candidate, Dominic Romain, and also at 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, we go live from St. Joseph, and we might even talk to Nayabingi update on what is happening on the ground and this important meeting and greet the people up there in St. Joseph. So people, so director, we could, and look out 12 o'clock today. 12 o'clock today. 12 o'clock today, we have Google. So Pastor Google will be on with Nicole at 12, and we take that feed from Talk City. It's all about bringing the People's National Movement message out there, and we want you to hear the message. It's all about the message and going out and voting come election day. So this evening at 3 o'clock, after Pastor Google, we head straight down to Malabar Mousiga, and from 6 o'clock, we transform up in St. Joseph, where a massive rally cry will be happening. And all members of the People's National Movement will be gathering to send a strong message that St. Joseph is still PNM. So see you all this afternoon. Have a blessed morning. And I hand you back over to Master Control, where they will be signing you off until 12 o'clock today. We have a lot of work to do today. Plenty, and not enough men on the field. I'm talking to boss people about that, but I don't know. The boss man just not hearing, but we go deal with that. So, Master Control, you take it over, and let's hear the song from last night. Now, let me hear the song from last night. Delete. Let me hear the song and take us out now, Master Control, and have a blessed morning and enjoy the rest of your day as we continue to bring you the message on BounXup Central Media Platform. Director, take me out.
PDP, deleting PEP, deleting COP, deleting PPP, deleting UNC, deleting NTA, deleting. What is that? BNM alone. BNM alone when we voting. BNM alone when we voting. All other party we deleting. BNM alone. BNM alone when we voting. BNM alone when we voting. All other party we deleting. By any means, they want to defeat BNM, but they realize that is big problem. So they conjure up with all kind of party. But if they smart, they clear the way. But they too wicked, so they have to pay. BNM alone. BNM alone when we voting. BNM alone when we voting. All other party we deleting. BNM alone. BNM alone when we voting. BNM alone when we voting. All other party we deleting. They say the young people would vote for them, but they realize this is more problem. So they run over to social media with their propaganda, but election day they going to suffer. BNM alone. BNM alone when we voting. BNM alone when we voting. All other party we deleting. BNM alone. BNM alone when we voting. BNM alone when we voting. All other party we deleting. We young and strong, we afraid of soul and tongue. Election time, and you know we never wrong. We are PLM, and you know we coming strong. So if you smart, play the way, but I know you're bad, so make your play. BNM alone. BNM alone when we voting. BNM alone when we voting. All other party we deleting. BNM alone. BNM alone when we voting. BNM alone when we voting. All other party we deleting. BNM alone. BNM alone when we voting. BNM alone when we voting. All other party we deleting. BNM alone. BNM alone when we voting. BNM alone when we voting. All other party we deleting.
Let's go.
Yeah.